The night was thick with smoke, laughter, and the low hum of country music vibrating through the wooden walls of Murphy's bar. It was the kind of place where rough men gathered after long rides on the highway, leather jackets creaking as they leaned back on stools, bottles clinking, and boots thumping against the dusty floorboards. The regulars knew each other's stories, the heartbreaks, the fights, the debts owed and paid. Nobody expected surprises in a place like this, until she walked in. She looked too ordinary to stand out. Just a woman in her mid-30s, jeans faded from years of wear, a plain jacket, and a face that carried no makeup or desire to impress. Her hair was tied in a loose ponytail, her shoes scuffed from long journeys, and her eyes lowered as though she wanted no attention. She carried herself with the silence of someone who had seen enough of the world to stay unnoticed. A simple woman. That's what anyone would have called her at first glance. But fate had different plans. She pushed the door open gently and stepped inside, the warm orange lights falling on her face. A few heads turned, some out of curiosity, others out of habit. She walked straight to the bar counter, nodded politely to the bartender, and asked for nothing more than a glass of water. That, too, was unusual in Murphy's, a place where people came to drown their lives in whiskey or beer. But she asked for water. She sat quietly, hands folded, not looking for trouble. Trouble, however, was looking for her. At the corner table, 5 men sat with their leather vests marked with the insignia of a biker gang. They weren't strangers here. Everyone knew them. The Iron Vultures, a group feared in 3 counties, notorious for their street fights, bar brawls, and the kind of chaos they carried wherever their roaring motorcycles went. Their leader, a tall brute named Razor, with a scar slashing across his left cheek, noticed the woman. He nudged his friend, a heavyset man called Tank, and laughed. "Look at that." Razor sneered, his voice loud enough to cut through the music. "Little Miss Innocent walks into the wrong nest tonight." The others chuckled, their laughter rolling like thunder across the room. Eyes turned toward the woman, some pitying her, others waiting for entertainment. Murphy's bar had seen fights before, but never had anyone dared to provoke the Iron Vultures. The woman lifted her glass, sipped her water calmly, and said nothing. Her silence was not fear, it was patience. Razor stood up, his boots echoing against the wooden floor as he swaggered toward the bar counter. Tank and the others followed, forming a semicircle around her. The room grew quieter. The music still playing but ignored. Everyone knew the script. When the Vultures chose a target, there was no escape without humiliation. Well, Razor leaned on the counter, his scar twisting as he grinned. "What's a fragile little thing like you doing here, huh? You lost." The woman's eyes lifted, meeting his for the first time. Her voice was soft, steady, and without tremor. "Just having some water." The simplicity of her answer sparked laughter from the men behind Razor. Tank banged the counter with his palm, nearly spilling her glass. "Water? In this place? Sweetheart, you're in the wrong bar." Another biker leaned close, his breath thick with alcohol. "Or maybe she's looking for company." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. A couple of older men who knew better lowered their heads. Nobody interfered with the Vultures, not unless they wanted broken bones. The bartender pretended to polish a glass, pretending not to hear. But the woman didn't flinch. She didn't shrink or cower. She simply placed her glass down and spoke quietly. "I'm not looking for trouble. Trouble found you." Razor snapped, his grin widening into something darker. He placed a heavy hand on her shoulder as if to claim dominance. His fingers dug into her jacket, waiting for the fear in her eyes. But it never came. Instead, she exhaled slowly, and in that breath something shifted. Her stillness was not weakness, it was control. The kind that comes from years of discipline, of training, of walking through storms that break most people. Beneath her simple jacket, her body carried scars no one could see, muscles honed by repetition, reflexes sharpened by combat. She had not come here to fight, but neither would she allow herself to be broken. Razor squeezed harder, his gang cheering him on. "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue?" In one fluid motion, quicker than anyone could register, her hand snapped up, gripping his wrist like iron. Razor's grin faltered as pain jolted through his arm. Her voice cut through the noise, low and commanding. "Remove your hand." Where the bar froze, Razor tried to pull back, but her grip tightened, twisting his wrist just enough to make him wince. His pride flared, his temper igniting. "You." He didn't finish. She rose from the stool, her body moving with a grace that didn't belong in this dirty bar. In a single swift move, she twisted his arm and shoved him backward. Razor stumbled, crashing against a table, beer bottles shattering on the floor. Gasps erupted from the crowd. No one had ever laid hands on Razor, the leader of the vultures. Tank roared, charging forward like a bull. His massive hands reached for her throat. But before he could touch her, she pivoted on her heel, driving a sharp kick into his gut. The impact thundered through the bar as Tank flew backward, colliding with two chairs and collapsing, wheezing for air. The remaining three rushed her at once, fists swinging, fury blazing. The woman didn't retreat. She stepped into the storm. A punch came toward her face. She ducked, her elbow snapping up into the attacker's jaw. The crack was audible, the man crumpling to the ground. Another grabbed a chair, swinging it wildly. She sidestepped, kicked the back of his knee, and watched him collapse screaming. The last one lunged with a broken bottle, slashing at her. But her hand shot up, catching his wrist mid-swing, twisting it until the bottle shattered harmlessly against the floor. With a swift motion, she spun him around and slammed him onto the counter. 5 bikers, all flat on the ground. The bar was silent. The music had stopped. The crowd, wide-eyed, stared at the woman who moments ago had looked so ordinary. She brushed a strand of hair from her face, calmly picked up her glass of water and finished the last sip. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Finally, she set the glass down and said softly, "I asked for peace. You didn't listen." Her voice carried weight, not loud, but powerful enough to echo in every mind present. She turned, walked toward the door, and left as quietly as she had arrived. Behind her, Razor groaned, clutching his twisted arm. Tank wheezed on the floor, his gang groaning in pain. No one dared to follow her. The legend of the simple woman who crushed the iron vultures in Murphy's bar had just been born.